Hey guys, Alex Ruggieri here, and as promised, we are going to start our 4 or 5 week series on how to make your life better and how to not suck at the things you do. Nope, wrong video. That's going to be for a later date. Today we're going to talk about energy system training, and this is also a 4 or 5 week little tidbit video clips that we're going to be doing. Today we're going to be talking about the anaerobic lactic capacity tester, and that is an energy system. So we're going to take a quick step back and we're going to talk about what energy systems are, how we kind of define them, and how we define them through training, and some do's and don'ts as far as energy system training goes. Because in order to get the proper dose response, which is a word that we're going to be using quite a bit, there's some things, rules and guidelines that we need to abide by. So we're going to start off with what does it take to be good at sport. This applies to not just CrossFitters, but boxers, MMA fighters, football players. When we talk about sport, we have a couple components. Sport-specific skill. You know, if you're a football player, can you catch? Can you tackle? Can you make somebody miss a tackle? That kind of stuff. Strength and or muscular endurance. Again, that's going to be relative to the sport. Some sports are very strength-based, some sports are very muscular endurance-based, and some have a blend of the two. And then energy system development. When we talk about specific sports, there's really cool ways that we can watch a sport take action and take place and kind of predict the muscle contractions that are taking place within the playing of the sport to figure out dominant energy systems in the sport and within positions of that. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about CrossFit, because I think the majority of people that are going to be watching this are going to be about our CrossFitters. If we have a lot of fighters that want to have this conversation about how this can apply to their sport, if you guys just either comment on the video or hit us up on Instagram, we can do another series about how this can apply specifically to mixed martial arts or boxing. So, what is energy system training? Energy system training for today's purpose is going to be the manipulation of movements, muscle contractions, effort, rests, periods of rest, and exposure in order to achieve a specific training adaptation. Now, when we talk about training adaptations, the training adaptations that we're talking about when we're referring to energy system training is our body's ability to effectively use different fuel sources as fuel and turn that into exercise and turn that into movement. There's going to be a couple contradictions to energy system training, and this is where people start to get lost. This is not just a regular WOD, and we're going to talk about our tester and how we chose this tester for this time frame today and why we wouldn't do other things and why this might not be, for lack of a better word, as sexy as some people might like to see as far as an energy system tester goes. But some contradictions to energy system training are going to be bottlenecks. That's a really big one. What's a bottleneck? Anything that makes you have to slow down and think about what it is that you're about to do, right? That can be something skill related. For CrossFit's sake, that can be snatching, that can be clean and jerking, that can be ring muscle ups, that can be chest bar pull-ups, that can be handstand walking. Now, that's not to say that we can't have skill related exercises in energy system development, but it's important to make sure that the athlete that's partaking in that energy system development can undergo those exercises with limited to no issues from that skill or muscle contraction realm. Strength. Again, we're not suggesting that there's no weights or no barbells or no dumbbells or no nothing involved in energy system training, but there can't be so much weight or so many repetitions that other sources of fatigue come into play that make it so that we're not exposing the desired energy system. And then muscular endurance. Doing 50 chest to bar pull-ups in a interval or in a set is not going to be something that we're able to bring out the appropriate dose response for 99.9% of athletes. So we need to make sure that we're not fatiguing muscles locally. The last thing, and we're going to talk about this when we get into the rest and repeats and sets and rest between sets, is going to be non-repeatable efforts. None of the things that we do here, and we're actually going to come down to our chart here now, none of the things that we do as far as percentage of effort are 100% effort. Because every single energy system touch that we're going to be making today and in the future for that matter needs to be repeatable. Whether it's hard effort at 90%, whether it's somewhat hard at 85%, or when we start talking about more aerobic type activity where it's going to be 70%. Similar to a bench press or similar to a squat, somebody that wants to get a bigger bench press wouldn't go into the gym every single day and hit a 1 rep max on a bench press. So why would we do that with a 10-minute AMRAP if we're trying to get 10-minute get better at that time frame. We need more exposure at percentages. That bench press athlete would probably go into the gym and do a 5x5 or do a 5x3 and progress from there so that they're getting more volume at a somewhat lower of an intensity, and in turn the intensity at the top end can increase. And that rule doesn't change for energy system work. And for whatever reason, we in fitness have kind of lost our way with that, and we think that this is just going to get us better at this, and that's not true. So when we're talking about this anaerobic lactic capacity tester, it's important to remember, and I know there's going to be people that comment on this and say, well, there's other energy systems that work. 100%, that is 99% of the time true. Whenever we have any type of activity or any type of exercise, there's going to be a lot of different energy systems at play. This is going to be the energy system that we believe, and a lot of people do believe, that is going to be the most dominant energy system within this time frame. Now, when we're talking about exercise prescription, the prescription that we're going to make today is for somebody that doesn't have any outlying issues. An outlying issue for somebody like this might be somebody who is extremely, extremely, extremely powerful, and they actually need to be dampered. So what that would look like is like a very, very high level weightlifter that has no cardio. And they're not doing good on a tester like this or in something in this time frame with this energy system tester because they don't know how to they don't know how to breathe. I don't know if this is cursing or not. Are we cursing? I forget what the rules are on this. We are cursing?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because they don't know how to fucking breathe. There's always going to be outliers. Again, I'm talking to the masses here. Outliers, that's a conversation that we have to have kind of together. Here's our flow of how we can get better at 60 to 720 seconds of effort. It starts with anaerobic lactic power 1, which is 20 to 40 seconds of work. And as you go, and I'm not going to walk you through every single category and every single subcategory through that. I'll walk you through the top one. Anaerobic lactic power 1. That's 20 to 40 seconds of work. That's 5 to 9 times the amount of work that you did in rest. We're able to repeat that 3 to 6 times. Repeats, not sets. We can have 2 to 3 sets per session with 7 to 10 minutes per rest interval between sets. And we're actually going to put out a sample program as to what following something like this might look like for a mixed modal athlete or for a CrossFit athlete, and we're going to put it up on our website that you guys will be able to access for free, and you'll be able to kind of see it applied in practice. So freeze frame this with my smiley face in it at this moment so you can look and see how we progress. And so we know anaerobic lactic power 1, anaerobic lactic power 2, anaerobic lactic endurance 1, anaerobic lactic endurance 2, anaerobic lactic endurance 3, and as you see, the work gets longer, the effort gets lower, right? And like anything else, including aerobic activity, the goal for these repeats and for the sets is sustainability. Now, when we come over here to the rules on how to talk about program design in something like this, when this is the goal, no bottlenecks. We already spoke about that, right? We do want to have mixed modal activities, especially once we get into this anaerobic lactic endurance. It's tough to have mixed modal, and when I say mixed modal, I mean weightlifting, gymnastics, and monostructural or cardio. It's sometimes hard to have three modalities when the work time is so short, just because transitions are going to eat up time. As we start to get into some of these endurance pieces, we're able to really enjoy, for lack of a better word, that tri-modal domain, if we will. Here's probably going to be a lot of sled pushing, a lot of sprinting on machines, that kind of stuff. If you're sprinting on machines for any of this, you have to make sure it's a machine that you're comfortable on and that you can use effectively. If I don't know how to fucking row and I sit on a rower and I do my anaerobic lactic power work on a rower, I'm probably not going to get the intended dose response, all right? Where if athlete B is a good rower and they know how to row at a high stroke rate and they know how to pull hard and the whole 9 yards, they might be able to get the intended dose response there. So that's going to be number 1, is no bottlenecks, which we spoke about. Muscular endurance, strength, and skill. Rule number 2, rest completely. We've spent a lot of time, since 2013 actually, manipulating different types of energy system protocols for athletes. And the biggest issue that I found with athletes, 2 of them, was these workouts, the workouts weren't sexy enough, so they were kind of boring. And number 2, I feel good, I'm just gonna go now. It's not about how you feel, it's about what's happening in your body. It's not about how you feel. More people should take that into consideration. Life advice today. It's not about how you feel. It's not about how you feel, it's about what's actually happening physiologically inside and how our body is recovering. So it's important that we adhere to these rest times, not, I'm fine, I'm gonna go again. It's a lot of rest, but the benefit to this is astronomical because there's not a lot of people doing this right now. And these are the difference makers. It's gonna really put you at another level. We already talked about overly powerful athletes possibly needing some dampering with some aerobic work, which we're going to talk about next week and how we can apply aerobic work to something like this. And then, like I talked about, once we get into this anaerobic lactic endurance work and we start to get mixed modal, the mixed modal, I just apologize to the whiteboard for tripping on it. The mixed modal always has to be in this order: weightlifting, then gymnastics, then monostructural. And just to reiterate, I'm not suggesting that somebody that's really, really good at ring muscle-ups can't do ring muscle-ups in this anaerobic lactic endurance too, but they need to be good at muscle-ups. If somebody has 15 unbroken ring muscle-ups and you're giving them sets of 3 within energy system development pieces of work, they can probably handle that. If somebody can do 3 unbroken ring muscle-ups and you're asking them to do doubles or probably even singles, chances are there's going to have to be a lot of rest just from a strength component and skill component. That doesn't apply here. What's the tester? All right, our tester for this anaerobic lactic capacity piece is going to be right here. 10-minute AMRAP, 7 power snatches at 75 pounds for guys, 55 pounds for ladies, 9 bar facing burpees, and 11 box jump overs. These box jump overs are going to be 24 inches for guys, 20 inches for ladies, and we're going to call it the 2022 open standard. We want to go over. You're not allowed to jump off the box. You're not allowed to rebound off the box. So that's going to take that skill component out. Again, is this the flashiest and sexiest workout that you've ever seen? No, it's not, but that's how energy system work gets done. And that's how we're going to get a tester on this and get a scores on this that don't have anything necessary to do with how good you are at snatching. Because the vast majority of people are going to be able to keep that unbroken. If this was 135 and 95, now we have a skill and strength component in there. Same thing with these box jump overs. If we allowed for a rebounding, that's a skill component that we can have a conversation about when we're talking about getting better specific to sport. I'm not saying that that's not important. That's just not what we're talking about here. So, like I said, we're going to put on our website an 8-week, 16 workout progression that's going to follow these guidelines. And that'll actually be the last thing that we talk about, ways to progress. Because a lot of times we do this tester and we see this and we're like, what the fuck happens now? What am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? I just did 2 workouts. What now? Ways to progress. You got a couple different ways. You got volume, right? Chances are the first time that you start to spend time in here, if you're doing it correctly, you're not going to be able to do 6 repeats at a 40-second effort, rest 7 to 10 minutes, and repeat that for 3 sets. You're gonna be trash. It's not going to happen. So one way is to increase the volume and get more towards this high number in the repeats, and these high numbers in the sets. The next way is complexity. When I first start doing anaerobic lactic endurance, I might not be able to handle the complexity of this. I might have to keep it with 2 things. I might keep it with some touch and go power cleans and some runs, or some touch and go power snatches and some burpees, whatever it might be. Some people do like to sit on a machine for this. I'm not a huge fan of that, and we can talk about that later. But as we start to get better, we can start to make the muscle contractions a little bit more aggressive within reason. And that's why I put the word relative there. You can't read that word. I can barely read it, but it says relative to the athlete. Rest periods. I already discussed rest periods and how important they are to resting completely, not just to how you feel, but to what's going on inside your bodies. We gave a time frame, right? 5 to 9 times your work, 3 to 5 times your work. So when you first start out, in order to maintain pacing, in order to maintain your intensity, you might have to rest on the 9, 13, 7, on the higher side of these rest periods. And as you progress yourself, you might be able to cut those rest periods down a little bit, but they can never, ever, ever go south of these numbers. Move on. And this is how I progress the majority of my athletes. Anaerobic lactic power 1. We'll usually do 2 or 3 progressions there. I want them to show me that they can get really, really fucking intense, rest up, and then get really fucking intense again. Really intense, 90% hard, that's intense. Every single set, every single repeat. If one repeat is not repeatable, we failed that session, we're gonna have to rest, recover, and try that session again. Once you create sustainability throughout this number of repeats, throughout this number of sets, move on to the next one. Your chances are you're gonna have to try it a couple times before you hit the sweet spot. Once you do, move on. Again, I would recommend spending 2 to 4 sessions on every single one of these and then retesting, see where you're at. Like I said, link in the bio is gonna give you a 16 workout progression so you can do it on your own. Let me know what you think, and next week we'll drop the next one. See ya.